Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 22. And before we get started, I want to wish you guys a happy new year. I am recording this on the last day of 2021, and I just want to thank you guys for all the support in 2021. It's been an amazing year, and I'm very excited to see what we could do here in 2022. But anyways, let's get into this Houston episode. So we had no comments in last episode that I want to go over because I am recording this literally like a day after you guys saw the episode, just because I really want to see how this team does this season, because I think this is our best season yet, probably. I said that last year, but we only had 31 wins. I think this year we could go for 35, just based on how good our forward core looks and all the chemistry and stuff like that. So basically our lines for the season are Thornton, Jaskline, and Kapitanov, Morales, Burns, and Sea-Doo, which is a pretty solid second line. It's a little bit weak in terms of centers, but it's still pretty good. Third line has Forster, Pasquale, and Goldobin, and in our fourth line has Lannon, Tursenbaev, and Korostin. So it's not too bad of a forward core. Basically, these two are the weakest players on this forward core, but they are the best overall players that we have. We don't really want to call up any of these guys yet because we want some of them to actually get some good growth. And in our defensive core also, it looks like a little bit better as well, because we got Teratukin and Hedman still. Yip is up to a 78. Hopefully he gets some good growth this year. He is listed now as a top 6 defenseman, so we are getting growth in terms of his role right now. Turris is still probably the weakest link on this defensive core, so hopefully we could replace him in next year's draft and stuff like that. And in our top 6 pairing is comprised of Sedin, who's in his first season. Very excited to see what this young defenseman could do, because he does have some pretty good offensive stats. And he's also on the power play in that. And speaking of the power play, it is pretty gross. I'll show you guys that in a second. And he's playing with Reed Roach, who's up to a 79, so pretty solid there as well. Special teams wise, as I was mentioning, we have some very good chemistry. This first unit is a +5. The second unit is also a +5. So I'm very excited to see how the power play does this year. Last year we had the first best power play in the NHL. I'm hoping we could repeat that stat if we can. And then there's our 4-man power play. Our penalty kill also has some good chemistry, so hopefully we can score some more short-handed goals this year. And I think that's pretty much that. And in our goaltending situation, didn't show you guys that. That's probably our weakest point still going into the season. Soderstrom's an 82, so he's not becoming really that elite goalie. But that's kind of okay, because I find elite goalies that are like 89 plus, they don't do good in the playoffs, so that's okay with me. And then Janssen is our backup, which he's not really that great. Hopefully we could replace him with another goalie down the road. But anyways, that is our team going into the season. Very excited to see what this team could do, and hopefully we could maybe get close to the playoffs this year, or make the playoffs even just barely. That would be pretty nice. So before we get into the season simulation, we are going to also quickly take a look at our new young guys in our lineup, because I don't think I did that last year, and I made a mistake on not doing that, because I like to show you guys all the faces on our team. So I believe we haven't seen Tursenbaev yet, if I'm not mistaken, because I know he's played a few NHL seasons. I don't think we looked at him yet, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, this is what Tursenbaev looks like. Looks pretty basic, like a mad Russian dude. I could see that guy for some reason being in the military. Who else have we not seen yet? We've seen all these guys. We might have seen all the rest of the forward core. Defensively, though, we definitely haven't seen Roach, I don't think. And I don't think we've seen Sedin. And I don't think we've seen Yip either. Those are the 3 that we haven't seen. So let's take a look at what they look like quickly. So Reed Roach looks like this. I might have seen Reed Roach last year. His face seems familiar, but then again, I've been creating a lot of players for my roster builds. So yeah, we might have seen Reed Roach already. Not 100% sure with that. And then Marcus Sedin, who's in his first season, we definitely haven't seen him yet. He looks a little bit like this. Wow, he's got a nice beard. Okay, I dig it. Does his beard grow any longer in the playoffs, out of curiosity? Let's see. Beard length for the playoffs, yep, is a 4. Damn, he has a wild man beard. I love that. He's going to look like Brent Burns out there on defense, which is actually kind of a good thing to an extent. And then our final player to look at is Dante Yip, who was in his first season last year, I think it was. So, or maybe it was 2 years ago now. I don't even remember. But he also has the wild man beard, it looks like, and he has no hair. Oh man, this guy's actually going to look like a caveman. No hair on his head, but more on his face. And that's as long as it gets. But still, this guy has definitely a cool look. Kind of reminds me of Ryan Getzlaf with Brent Burns' beard to an extent. But anyways, those are our new players for this upcoming season. So now we can get into the season sim and see how good this team does. I would like to say our team is going to at least get 35 wins, but I said that last year, so I don't really know how much our team is going to get. But hopefully we can get some wins soon and make the playoffs as soon as possible, because we are running out of time on some players' contracts, and then it's going to get a little bit pricey and problematic. So let's just go all the way to the end of the season and see how much games we win this year. Hopefully we don't run into any problems with our lines and stuff like that, because some lines I find, like I think it was last year, our bottom 6 was our worst lines and stuff like that, which makes sense. So hopefully all lines could kind of do a little bit better, considering their overalls are all jumping up and whatnot. We do get a shutout in the first game of the season, which is really nice, and then we win another one. We're starting the season 3-0 this year, which is pretty impressive. We have not lost a game in regulation, but then obviously as I say that we do. It's really impossible to keep up with the sim speed though on next gens, so man, now we're dropping a lot of games, which is not great. We started off the season strong, but not anymore. But yeah, hopefully we could somehow maybe make the playoffs this year. We already have 8 wins and we're not even like a month in fully, I think. Well, we're actually a month in. Come on, boys. Let's keep on winning those games, because if we can make the playoffs this year, that would be really good, considering some of our players still have a couple years left on their contracts and whatnot. We want to make the playoffs as soon as possible. We're winning a lot of games this season, though, it looks like so far. We're up to 15 wins already, and we're not even in January. And we're having some good winning streaks, so we're actually playing like an actual NHL team, which we technically should, because most of our NHL players are NHL caliber. Some of them are AHL caliber, but it still is what it is. Yeah, at this rate, we might make the playoffs, because we already have 23 wins. We have only 15 regulation losses. And we're getting some OT losses, too, so we're getting still points that way. As long as we can keep winning games. But obviously now we're on a losing streak again, and we bounce back with some points in those last games. Yeah, this team is still pretty inconsistent, but we are winning a lot more games this year. We're almost at our record, which was 31 last season, which is good. That means this season's definitely been a step up. And there's our 31st win and our 32nd win. Let's just close this because deadline. Was there a big trade this year at the deadline or something? Nope. But yeah, we already have our best season yet so far, which is really good with 32 wins. Last year, like I said, we only had 31. Okay, so game against Dallas is another loss. Arizona's a shootout loss. We're losing a lot of games lately, boys. Come on, we want to make it into the playoffs if we can. Because even if we just barely make it into the playoffs, maybe we'll be the cheese team to win the Stanley Cup. You never know. Come on, boys. Don't lose a lot of games in a row down the stretch. This is very important. And are we going to make the playoffs? We are. We made the playoffs. Oh my god. We made the playoffs in this season. Holy crap. What a way to start 2022. The first video I make. We make the playoffs with our Draft to Glory team. That means the cup is not out of reach. We literally made it with 89 points. Wow. Okay. Let me advance today so we can get all the rest of the season done. But we have made the playoffs for the very first time in franchise history. It could be because the defense has been improving, but I am very excited to see what this team can do in the playoffs. Wow. Okay. So we have made the playoffs. So let's take a look at our team stats and our player stats. And then I guess we'll see who we're going up in the first round. But I don't know if we're going to make it farther than the first round. There's always a chance, because maybe we'll be a cheese team that goes on really far, because we just barely made it in. But let's take a look at our team stats first and go to the entire league. And let's see, where did we finish in the entire league? It was probably just barely in a playoff spot, right? Yeah, we finished in 18th in the league, yet we made the playoffs. Like, teams like New Jersey missed the playoffs, even though they were way above us. So we kind of got lucky getting into the playoffs, so I don't know if we're going to win a round or not. Goals for per game this season, we scored 3 goals per game, which is actually pretty solid, but it still is not that great. Our offense definitely needs to step it up a bit. It's right around mid-table, I would say. And we allowed a little bit more than we scored, which is kind of interesting. But our goals against per game is one of the best in the NHL, maybe? No, it's still around mid-table as well. So basically 5-on-5, we still need to improve our team, but special teams must be what is carrying this team at the moment. And yep, our power play is once again top 2 in the league, just behind the Jets, but 25.8%. You love to see it. And then our penalty kill, 83.1%, is not great, it looks like. Yeah, our penalty kill needs to improve as well. So basically our power play carried us into the playoffs. It looks like we only have one shorthanded goal this year as well, which last year I think we had like 3 or 4. We had a good winning record on home ice, and the road we were kind of not that great at. So kind of an interesting season for this team to get into the playoffs. Let's take a look at our player stats now for the season. So Jaskalainen, 79 points in 82 games, so he's under point per game, but still pretty solid from him. Yeah, he's had a pretty good career for a draft glory team. He's only been plus 1 time though, which kind of sucks. Chad Burns in his second season, is this? Yeah, his second season, 48 points in 82 games. He's going to be looking for a solid contract probably next offseason, which is going to be problematic because a lot of this team is on multi-year deals. So we might have to just keep getting him for 1 year until somebody else expires. I don't know. But a pretty good season from Chad Burns. And then Pete Pasquale actually this year improved his defense, and that might have been what made us get into the playoffs as well, because Pete Pasquale, his first, like, whatever many years, he was always a minus player, but this year he had 34 points and was an even 0. So he didn't take as much, and he doesn't really take a lot of penalty minutes either. I just realized, as a few years ago, he had 0 penalty minutes through 82 games, which is pretty impressive. So that's nice. And then Tursenbayev, 17 points in 82 games, but a minus 14. So he's kind of the weak link. Good, at least he's on the 4th line. Left wing wise, Gene Thornton had 73 points, 32 goals. He's still not really scoring a whole lot, but he was a plus 10. He's still kind of a streaky player in terms of scoring, but 517 points in his career already. Almost as much goals as assists. Then we have Sam Sidhu, 63 points. That's not too bad, considering I just gave him a 5-year deal. But still, yeah, he's not putting up elite numbers for a guy that was pretty high drafted up, but he's doing at least what he can and helping out this team a bit offensively. Morales, 57 points. Morales might end up leaving this team. He's dropped down to top 6 potential, which really sucks. And he's still signed for 2 more years at 8.85. So, yeah, Morales isn't going to become that elite player that we wanted him to be, but at least he's still pretty solid. Like, his point production has really dropped off since he's been demoted to the 2nd power play unit. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then George Forster, 39 points, which is not too bad. He only has 1 year left pretty much now on his contract. So he's going to be demanding a little bit more money, but he should be still affordable since he's an 82 overall, I would assume. Right wing wise, Kapitanov, 71 points in 82 games. That's a really good season from him. His ELC ends this year, so he's going to be probably pretty expensive because he is improving his point production. Goldobin, 25 points. That's not too bad, but he's not going to be really growing anymore. Croston, 18 points. His point production's really dropped off a lot. I might have to let him go this offseason because he might be demanding still like $4 million, but who knows. And then Lanin, 17 points as well. Defensively, Teratukin, 36 points, which is pretty solid, but he's still dropped off a lot in point production. I don't really know what the reason is. Maybe it's because Sedin's in the lineup now. Something like that. Hedman, 30 points is pretty solid. Turse, 26, which is pretty good for a 73 overall. I'll definitely take that. And then Sedin, 16 points. That's a pretty good rookie season from him. Only 1 goal, but 15 assists. And he's up to an 82 overall after 1 year, which is also really good. He is listed as a top 4 defenseman. Yep, 14 points. He's a 79. And Roach, 12 points, and he's still a 79. So our defensive core is a legitimate defensive core except for Turse pretty much. And then goalie-wise, Soderstrom was actually really solid this year. 914 save percentage and a 2.82. And then he also went 31, 26, and 7. We do have him locked up for 1 more year, and then we'll have to probably give him a long-term deal if we want to keep him as like maybe a backup or something like that, depending on if we have any goalies in the system getting ready. And we also have Janssen, who was pretty meh, I would say. So Soderstrom's definitely the starter for the playoffs. But so those are our player stats. Let's take a quick look at the entire league just to see where our players finished. So the best player in terms of offense was Austin Matthews with 119 points. Jeez. And he also scored 68 goals this year, which is absolutely insane. So Austin Matthews went off this year. Not really a surprise, though. And in defense, the best defenseman this year was Rasmus Sandin. So Toronto is going to be a scary team to deal with if we ever have to play them in the playoffs. And then goalie-wise, Shesterkin led in wins with 45, but Spencer Knight was also up there. Best save percentage by a starter was Shesterkin with a 924. So yeah, it looks like Shesterkin. Yeah, Shesterkin's gonna win the Vezina more than likely. And the best rookie this year for points was Cristiano Scarabelli, which is that franchise guy that went first overall. He's got 78 points in his first 82 games. Damn. Interesting season for sure. Let me actually take a quick look at our AHL team because I want to take a look on how the AHL team did by comparison in terms of stats and whatnot. So Ortiz, 61 points is pretty good. Ferraro is getting some development that's good because we do need guys that could jump into the lineup soon. Looks like Sador could be a useful player in the NHL at some point. A lot of these other guys aren't really developing much more than they are already, which kind of sucks. Defensively, Ozolinch could almost make it into the NHL. Cohen Blacker's gained some development, and he had a pretty solid first season in the AHL. McIver, Afinosankov is getting growth as well, and Jurgen Schutz might be NHL ready in a few seasons, maybe not. And there's our goaltending tandem. Cambeat's actually had a really good season down there, damn. And in Park, in his first season in the AHL, really didn't do that great, but both of them are 71 overall. Interesting. Okay, so now we got to take a look at who we are playing in for the first round of the playoffs, which is kind of nuts to say that because I didn't expect this team to really make the playoffs. I expected us to maybe just barely miss, but to get 40 wins and finish in a playoff spot is amazing. Who are we going to be playing in round one in our inaugural playoff matchup? It's going to be none other than the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, the team that has Igor Shesterkin that literally probably is going to win the Vezina. They went 57-21-4 this season, so they had 17 more wins than us. This is going to be probably a slaughter for us, and we're probably going to end up losing this pretty easily, unless we could just be that cheese team and somehow beat them. But this is going to be probably pretty tough, I would assume. Let me take a quick look at how they did by comparison to us, even though we do know they had a lot more wins. I would assume they also had a lot more goals and stuff like that. So they scored 3.61. I think we had like 3. So yeah, they're a good offensive team, good defensive team. Their power play is worse than ours, so that's a little bit of a difference. And then their penalty kill is better than ours too. So if our power play could do what it did during the regular season, maybe we have a chance, but it's going to be pretty damn tough to beat Shesterkin, I think. So let's take a look at what their lineup looks like, and then that will be it for this episode, I think. We'll also actually take a look at the playoff tree, because why not? But where are we going to go? View lines. Let's see what Chicago's got on that forward core, because I don't honestly know what the rest of their team looks like, since we haven't kept up with it. But first line, Rudolph Bolsers, Zach Dean, and Owen Tippett. So it's kind of a weird first line, having Bolsers and Tippett on there. Interesting. Second line has Duclair, Newhook, and Max Jones. So their centers are good, looks like, but their wingers, some of them are a little bit weak, especially in the top 6, but they're better in the bottom 9, it looks like, or bottom 6, I should say. Third line, Robert Thomas, Sean Couturier, who's dropping off, and Jacob Campoli. Interesting. Former 9th overall pick. And the fourth line, Taylor Radish, Joe Veleno, and Tyler Bertuzzi. So I don't understand the AI why it's doing this, but Veleno should be up here. Couturier should be down here. As well, Bertuzzi, Thomas, and Campoli should be in your top 6 over like these type of wingers, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. Defensively, they have Chaka and Seth Jones, who's dropped down to an 82, and his contract actually ends this year, which is interesting. And then on the top 4 pairing, they have Jacob Larson and Caden Stajan, who has some X factors. He's a low elite that they got right at the end of the first round 5 years ago or 4 years ago. So that's interesting. And then on the top 6, they have Gaspard Lemieux, who's another top 4 defensive prospect, and Gustav Forsling, who they brought back. So their defensive core is actually not that great looking overall wise, but it must be because of Shesterkin that they're a really good defensive team. And then goalie-wise, they have Shesterkin and Ingram, which is a pretty damn good combo. Obviously, Shesterkin usually simulates really good. He had a fantastic season this year. And he hasn't had good playoff numbers since last year, looks like, or a couple of years ago, when they almost won the Stanley Cup, so that's kind of scary. Looks like he did win a Stanley Cup with the Rangers, though, a few years ago, so it's definitely going to be pretty tough to beat Igor, I think. And then Connor Ingram is their backup, and he's also pretty solid, looks like. He's never played an NHL playoff game before, but As a backup goalie, he's actually not really that great. 59, 87, and 15, and 896 and a 349. So that's that. And depth-wise, they do have Max Lajoie, Essa Lindell, and Thomas Harley. So they only have a depth for defenseman, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if they'll call up a forward from the AHL if that happens, or they'll just play a defenseman as a forward. But that's kind of an interesting combination there. So that is that, and I think we'll take a quick look at the playoff tree, and then that'll be it for this episode. So the playoff tree going into this season has the following. So Winnipeg in Colorado, us in Chicago, which is going to be interesting. The winner of that series will probably face either Winnipeg or Colorado, I think. And then you also have San Jose and Anaheim, so a California battle. Edmonton and Vegas, and then in the East you got the Capitals and the Blue Jackets, the Rangers and Islanders. That's an interesting series for sure. And then Tampa and Ottawa, and Toronto in Philadelphia. So should be interesting there for sure. Doesn't look like our AHL team made the playoffs, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory. So in next episode, we'll take it to our first ever playoff matchup and first ever playoff series against the Chicago Blackhawks as we look to upset one of the best teams I've seen in quite a long time. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.